the kind of best understanding to see where your target audience is and how you can reach them is how the evolvement of PR has become. For example, uh, in terms of new media, podcasts have a reach that is immaculate. It is just beyond everything how a podcast is reaching to millions of people at once. So what is the best podcast you can feature in? What is the target audience that it is reaching out to? And what is the best story that you can go and talk about? So that is the kind of research a PR professional has to do. But I think the movement from traditional to new media is still in the progressive format. We have not completely went to the new media aspect. It's still somewhere in the middle, but I feel that the PR industry is evolving towards that direction. I'm an engineer by education. I studied electronics and communications engineering. And while I was studying in my second or third year, while I was taking my semester exams, I realized that this is not something that I want to do. This is not something that is my passion, and I want to make a living out of it. And that is when I started exploring different career options. I regret the fact that I did not go for career counseling before my college. Had that been, then there would have been a different story, but it was never too late. I logged into Internshala then, and I did a bunch of internships that comes under the marketing domain. So I tried content marketing, content writing, social media, PR, events, and I ended up doing roughly 15 internships during 3 years of my college. And that is when I realized that marketing and communications is something that I absolutely enjoy, and that is where I feel actual joy of doing that work. It doesn't feel like work for me. And that is how I decided that I will pivot my career and move towards marketing and communication. And that is when I joined Innovator. That was my first company. That was the only company that came to my college for recruitment for non-technical roles. And I landed that job opportunity in 2019. And I started working with Innovator as an intern first. And then 6 months later, I converted into a full-time employee of their PR specialist. So I looked after all of their PR efforts for 3.5 years across 4 geographies, including India, US, UK, and UAE. For PR and communications. That is how my journey started with PR. And then I moved to Klub a year ago. And here I work as a PR and communications manager. So there are a couple, when I think about a favorite campaign that I have done, I would start with my internship back in Innovator when I just started. I am very thankful for my mentors there because as I come from an engineering background, I did not have the theoretical knowledge of PR. So they gave me a lot of bandwidth to sit and study and understand how PR works, how the US market and the PR community works. And we worked with, so we had an in-house research team, and we worked on social determinants of health. That is basically how a geographical location determines what what chronic ailments you might have. Like if an area is prone to have more cancer patients, then how can you prevent that from happening? So that is a full heat map research that we did on entire US, and that report I worked on getting it covered exclusively on Wall Street Journal. So as an intern, as someone who's working for the first time in the PR field, getting that out, it took 2 long months in like having the entire story go live on Wall Street Journal. But I think that was one of the best days of my job there. And I also remember that story, I took a screenshot, I printed and I put it up on my desk because that was a day to remember. That was one of my favorite campaigns. And second, I would say here at Klub, I don't think so. PR is just traditional media and getting yourself listed on one of the major channels, although that is a very integrated part. But I wouldn't say it is all of that. So here at Klub, because we built on a strategy including new and digital media as well. We did a round table. We had some 8 to 9 members from the industry, from Cred, Misho, and all of these big giants in the D2C ecosystem of India. And we developed a research paper on strategies that D2C brands adapt before a festive season and how can that help boost your revenue. I worked end to end on getting that event to execution, as well as writing the research paper and taking it to distribution. And we were able to get some 4,000 odd downloads from the industry. So those were two like major highlights and some fun days at work. I think it would be for the first Wall Street Journal story because it was from a research paper. So there was a gold mine of data that we were sitting on. It included, so like to think from a perspective, it was the entire heat map of the US and what are the different geographies and what are the different health ailments that different geographies cater to, and how can healthcare solutions help prevent those chronic ailments from reaching to the population. So that was the kind of data that was at first very, very intimidating for me. I had to literally sit and understand from the research team. It took me days to understand and get it to the point that I can actually pitch and talk to an editor about it. And of course, there's no joke that when you're talking to a Wall Street Journal journalist, there'll be a lot of questions that you need to be well prepared for. So I did my own end of research. I did a lot of mock interviews with my different leadership members of the team just to understand that I am understanding it well. So that was my first interaction with data. And and it continued from there on. I think any company that you're working on works on data. I'm very sure that almost every company has a goldmine of data. I think it is just important for the communications team to also be aware of it, because there are so many stories that are just sitting idle with your data sets and those Excel sheets. You just need to study them and take it out. It takes a lot of effort. I'm sure it takes a lot of effort, but it is equally rewarding. I think at first my challenge when it comes to PR was to understand the US market, because sitting in India, understanding the healthcare problems in US, and then also understanding the US PR is a very difficult task because it is very different from India. It is in just terms of culture only, it's very different. So you have to adapt to that culture. Then obviously there are the logistical parts of it, that there is time difference and you have to be on point at all times. They want you to be crisp. They don't want you to go on and on for pages. Your press release has to be as crisp as possible with utmost information. So adapting to that kind of culture took me time. And then obviously I was working with a healthcare company, and a year back I made a switch to fintech. So again, understanding the fintech industry from its like just understanding credit, debt, and all of those things took me some while. But again, it was interesting. It's a field that has a lot to do with your day-to-day life. You just don't realize it until you get into it. So understanding different cultures in PR was a challenge for me initially. And when it comes to data, I think by now I have learned a little of how to study data. But in my initial days, it was difficult to just study data. I used to get intimidated seeing so much of just information lying there. But now with the help of, like, when I was working in my ex organization, we had internal dashboards and everything that made it very much simpler. So it helped me, but in the beginning, it was quite intimidating. I think it has changed from strategy to strategy for me. It depends a lot on the campaigns, because there are some press releases you just send it out for being in the, because you want to tap into the topicality of the season. If, for example, layoffs were happening or are still happening so much in the industry, we wanted to let out a word that Klub, in fact, is aiming to double its headcount. And in all senior positions as well as fresher positions. So that for that campaign, our only metric was to ensure that we are getting newer applications and we are getting more website traffic on our careers page. So it depends a lot from campaign to campaign, but typically I would say it definitely depends. Like, some of the metrics that are always going to be there would be the coverages you are getting, what kind of coverages you are getting. Especially at this company, we have divided into different tiers depending what our target audience is reading. So for in that aspect, like Financial Express and ET and Mint come for us in the tier 1 category, and then there is Business World, Your Story, and all of those channels. So we have those segregation in-house, and we maintain to have all of our like news mentions equally divided amongst all. And then definitely website traffic, because we have seen more often than not that PRs and comms that goes out work as a great inbound lead magnet. You get a lot of interest, especially a very well-written news piece that goes out does the job that, might take you a month or two doing cold reach outs. It is just magnanimous, the amount of reach that you can get. So understanding the website traffic, understanding social media engagement, and also understanding like the voice of your PR. Like, is it getting a positive connotation? Is it getting a negative connotation? How is the ecosystem taking adapting to your PR and your comms. So those are three or four metrics that remain constant throughout all campaigns. I have worked a lot with in-house built tools and dashboards that help me understand like how is the website traffic coming in, where is the boom, what kind of press releases get the maximum website traffic, is it something regarding a product launch, or if a funding announcement is getting that, or if a customer-centric story is getting that. I've also used, in fact, Viziki for at least good 2 to 3 quarters across my journey in both the companies. So that has helped me to understand where are my competitors tapping into the market and where am I not tapping, and what is the kind of share of voice my competitors are getting, and how can I, get into that market as well. So that is great in understanding. But my one of the most like a Bible that I swear by would be research. I think PR is a very much of a reader's and a writer's job. So as much as you research, as much as you understand what is happening in the ecosystem, and as much as you talk to people to understand what, like from the reporters and the journalist side, to talk to them and understand what are they writing about and how can your company be a contributor to that, as well as understanding your customers, what is working for them and what is not, like what kind of language do they understand is what you need to understand first. So I think that gives me a lot more insights than in general of other tools. But obviously tools help you just put a number and a benchmark to your performance, which is also very important. I think PR is an ever evolving industry, and I completely swear by this. I think whatever was happening in the PR industry 1 or 2 years ago, it is completely changed to now. Now companies are focusing more on how to tap into the Gen Z market. Now there is Chat GPT. There's always some or the other evolving technology, and being a part of the PR industry, you have to keep yourself updated. And one way to do that is definitely to understand what is the impact of these tools that are being created. So for me to, I mean, if there is a tool that can help me understand the sentiment of the market that I'm working in, for example, if right now I'm working in the D2C market, then I would like to understand that what is the topic of discussion in this market, like what are people most keen to learn about. For example, I'm sure that in the tech world everybody is intrigued by AI and Chat GPT. That is what they have been talking about. Last year it was crypto, so something that keeps me updated with this. And secondly, I feel that a lot of, like, as a marketer myself, we always want to tap into the topicality and the trending insights of the market. If there is a tool that can help me spot trends, that I think would be extremely helpful. And particularly from a communication aspect, I think a lot of people, I don't know, I mean, I have seen from my experience that a lot of people disregard local newspapers. But I think that shouldn't be the way, because the kind of reach that a local newspaper would have is very much different from a national newspaper for sure. But it plays such an integrated role in your PR strategy, because if you want to tap into a city, let's say a tier 3 city or a tier 2 city, then let's say if, for example, I would like to pick up the example of Dunzo here. Like, they did such a great campaign by putting up vernacular advertisements in local newspapers, and that got them a lot of eyeballs. For a company that works on the D2C ecosystem, it is a great level to play. So that kind of insights to also understand like how well your local newspaper communications is reaching to your target audience as compared to a national newspaper, that would be of an interest. I think the evolution that PR is already seeing right now is the movement from traditional to new and digital PR. I think and I would, like, for me, any campaign that I design for PR has to go through the PISO method. It has to have paid search, earned and owned media share, equally divided amongst all four. Again, it depends a lot from campaign to campaign. I think more or less equal weightage is given to all four channels. And the kind of best understanding to see where your target audience is and how you can reach them is how the evolvement of PR has become. For example, in terms of new media, podcasts have a reach that is immaculate. It is just beyond everything how a podcast is reaching to millions of people at once. So what is the best podcast you can feature in? What is the target audience that it is reaching out to? And what is the best story that you can go and talk about? So that is the kind of research a PR professional has to do. But I think the movement from traditional to new media is still in the progressive format. We have not completely went to the new media aspect. It's still somewhere in the middle, but I feel that the PR industry is evolving towards that direction. PR's role in recession comes from the crisis management aspect, whether it's a company that is doing layoffs or a company that is not doing layoffs but is doing some other sorts of cost cutting to ensure that they have a good runway in the company. I think PR plays a very important role to ensure that they talk about stability in the market. From our own example, when funding winter happened and layoffs started happening, I work in a company that provides debt. We are a debt capital platform, so it was obviously a silver lining for us. Not to give any offense to the layoff employees or companies, but we wanted to take out a voice that there are still other ways that companies can still run. There are still other ways that companies can function. There are still options in the market, and obviously advocating about, even like if layoffs are happening, PR professionals, if their company is doing layoffs, then they can come and talk about what is the best method to do it, because we have seen more examples than preferred of layoffs not happening in a very good manner. First would be to not get intimidated, because obviously the world of PR is very competitive. There is always something or the other happening. So my first piece of advice would be just to sit back, reflect, see what's happening, what's working, what's not working, and then have a strategy in place and not just go all over the place. As I mentioned before, someone who can crack and have a healthy balance of traditional and new media would be able to be extremely efficient in this ecosystem, I believe. So that would be one of my piece of advice. And second, I think somewhere or the other in the middle of it, we have, maybe it's because of the pandemic, but we have lost the touch of networking and talking to people. I feel that is very important. Having being like, as a PR professional, you can talk to your customers, understand what's happening for them, what's clicking for them, what is not, and also speaking to your peers in the PR industry. Talk to other PR professionals, see what's happening with them, and just have interactive conversations. There's a lot of insights that one can get over a cup of coffee. So I think that is of extreme importance. And being able to, like, PR requires a lot of relationship building skills. So working on those skills, having that kind of personality that would help you build very strong relationships with editors, journalists, and just in general people who are important to your industry. Having those 2 or 3 skills would be extremely important for someone who is starting afresh in this ecosystem, and also for like people like me. You can always upskill yourself here and there, so that is extremely important.